The Banishment. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Coalition fell silent as Admiral Theron of Earth stood before the Council of Elders. The immense chamber, with its soaring crystalline dome that reflected the light of distant stars, had been designed to make petitioners feel small and insignificant. Today, it served its purpose well. The Council has reached its decision, announced High Elder Zorix, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence as his translucent skin pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that betrayed his discomfort. Humanity's petition for full membership in the Galactic Coalition is denied. Admiral Theron maintained her composure, though her heart pounded beneath her formal uniform. Beside her, Ambassador Chen and Science Director Karachi exchanged alarmed glances. They had spent decades preparing for this moment, meticulously meeting every published criterion for membership. Furthermore, Zorix continued, his voice echoing through the chamber, the Council has determined that humanity represents an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. Effective immediately, the Sol system is placed under quarantine. No human vessel may travel beyond the designated boundary. No coalition species may enter human space. This decision is final and binding. Whispers erupted among the observation galleries where representatives from 1,000 worlds watched the proceedings. Admiral Theron stepped forward, her voice steady despite the shocking news. On what grounds does the Council justify this unprecedented action? She demanded. Elder Morveth, a being composed of living crystal, activated a holographic display. Images from human history flickered above the chamber floor. Wars, environmental catastrophes, and remarkable technological advancements compressed into seconds. Your species evolved from apex predators, Morvath stated. Unlike civilized races who develop through cooperation, humans are fundamentally competitive. You solve problems through aggression and innovation, rather than acceptance and harmony. Your rate of technological development is alarming. In just 3 centuries since discovering atomic energy, you have achieved feats that took other species millennia. Those very traits enabled us to overcome our violent past, Science Director Karachi argued. We've unified our world, eliminated poverty, and reversed climate damage. We've met every published criterion for membership. You have achieved peace for merely a century, countered Elder Isari, her feathered crest rising in agitation. My species has known harmony for 50,000 years. Your peace is but a heartbeat in cosmic time. High Elder Zorix raised a limb for silence. The quarantine barrier is already being constructed. It will consist of automated sentinel platforms positioned at the boundaries of your solar system. Any vessel attempting to cross will be immediately destroyed. How long will this quarantine last? Ambassador Chen asked, his voice tight with controlled anger. Until your species demonstrates it has evolved beyond its dangerous tendencies, replied Zorix, or until your sun expires, whichever comes first. The finality in his tone made it clear there would be no appeal, no reconsideration. The coalition had judged humanity and found them wanting. As the human delegation was escorted back to their ship by security drones, Admiral Theron noticed how the alien representatives watched them, not with hatred, but with fear. They feared what humans might become if allowed to spread among the stars. Once aboard their vessel, the Prometheus, Ambassador Chen slammed his fist against a bulkhead. Centuries of diplomatic work, all for nothing. We met every requirement. We were never going to be accepted, Admiral Theron said quietly, staring out the viewport at the massive coalition station. They fear what they don't understand. What will we tell Earth? Director Karachi asked. Billions expected us to bring back membership, not exile. Admiral Theron's eyes narrowed as she studied the sentinel platforms being towed into position around the jump point leading back to Sol. We tell them the truth, she said. And then we do what humans have always done when faced with adversity. We adapt. We overcome. The coalition just made a catastrophic mistake. Obviously, Ambassador Chen snorted. They've condemned us without cause. No, Theron replied, her voice hardening. Their mistake was leaving us with our knowledge, our technology, and most importantly, our determination. The journey back to Earth was silent and tense. Upon their return, the news spread quickly, triggering waves of shock, anger, and despair across human society. For 2 months, protests erupted in major cities as people demanded action against the coalition's decision. Politicians called for military preparation, while isolationists argued humanity should focus inward and forget the stars. Admiral Theron, however, had a different vision. 6 months after the quarantine was imposed, she addressed the United Earth Council in a closed session. "The Galactic Coalition fears our potential," she told the assembled leaders. "They fear our creativity, our adaptability, our unwillingness to accept limitations. So let's prove them right." She unveiled Project Phoenix, a multi-generational initiative to bypass the quarantine without detection. The Coalition's Sentinel platforms monitored conventional space drives, which created detectable ripples in spacetime. But human physicists had already been developing theoretical models for an entirely new propulsion system. "We don't need to fight the quarantine," Theron explained. "We need to render it irrelevant." The Council unanimously approved the project. Resources were diverted from traditional space programs to secret facilities scattered throughout the solar system. The public narrative shifted to focusing on solar system development, while underneath, humanity prepared for a much grander future. Dr. Eliza Okafor led the team developing what would become known as the Phantom Drive. Her laboratory deep beneath the lunar surface buzzed with activity as researchers tested principles that defied conventional physics. The problem with traditional FTL drives is they punch through space-time, she explained to Admiral Theron during an inspection. "That creates ripples the Sentinels can detect. Our approach is different. We slide between the folds of reality, leaving barely a trace." "How long until we have a working prototype?" Theron asked. 10 years at minimum," Okafor replied. "This is beyond cutting edge. We're writing new physics as we go." Meanwhile, humanity presented a carefully crafted facade to any coalition observers. They expanded their presence throughout the solar system, terraforming Mars and establishing habitats on numerous moons. They appeared to accept their confinement, while secretly preparing to shatter it. 15 years after the quarantine began, the first test vessel equipped with a Phantom Drive slipped past the Sentinel network undetected. The pilot, Commander Jimenez, maintained communication silence until reaching Alpha Centauri, where he transmitted a single coded message back to Earth. "The Phoenix has risen." When the message arrived, Admiral Theron, now director of the Phoenix Initiative, allowed herself a rare smile. She turned to her aide, Commander Liam Chen, son of the ambassador who had stood beside her in the coalition chamber. "Inform the Council," she said. "Phase 2 begins today." The first human colony outside Sol was established on an Earth-like moon, orbiting Alpha Centauri b, named Defiance. It served as the staging ground for humanity's silent expansion. Over the next decade, scout ships equipped with Phantom Drives mapped hundreds of star systems, identifying habitable worlds far from coalition traffic. Human colonies sprouted across nearby stars, each carefully hidden from coalition detection. Underground facilities, shielded habitats, and atmospheric scrubbers that eliminated industrial signatures kept them invisible. Every colonist understood the stakes. Discovery would mean destruction by the coalition's vastly superior numbers. 25 years into the quarantine, humanity had established 12 thriving colonies, none of which existed on coalition star charts. Each colony specialized in different aspects of technology and science, accelerating human advancement beyond anything the coalition could imagine. On the colony world Hyperion, Dr. Imani Okafor, daughter of Eliza, perfected the second generation of the Phantom Drive, allowing for more efficient and extensive travel. On Nova Terra, agricultural scientists developed crops that could thrive in varied planetary conditions, and on the frozen world of Erebus, military engineers designed vessels that combined Phantom Drive technology with weapons systems beyond anything Earth had possessed when the quarantine began. As humanity's hidden empire grew, they studied the Coalition from the shadows. Stealth observation posts recorded Coalition communications and monitored their technology. Human intelligence vessels, invisible to detection, tracked the movements of Coalition fleets and mapped their territories. Knowledge was power, and humans gathered it relentlessly. 30 years after being declared too dangerous to join galactic society, humanity had proven the Coalition's fears justified. But the true test of human ingenuity was yet to come. The Silent Revolution. 50 years had passed since the quarantine. On Earth, and throughout the Sol system, 2 generations had grown up knowing they were cosmic pariahs, rejected by the galactic community. Yet behind this facade of isolation, humanity had flourished in ways the Coalition never imagined possible. Captain Maya Chen stood on the bridge of the Shadowhawk, one of humanity's most advanced stealth vessels. As granddaughter of Ambassador Chen, she felt a personal stake in the mission ahead. The Shadowhawk hung in orbit around a world designated Tenebris, far beyond Coalition territory, in what humans called the Frontier Zone. Sensors confirmed Coalition presence in the system, reported Lieutenant Commander Adeimi, her tactical officer. One diplomatic vessel, heavily damaged. Scans indicate it's a Lyrisi ship. The Lyrisi were one of the younger species in the Coalition, known for their artistic achievements and sophisticated biotechnology. They were also among the few species who had argued against humanity's quarantine, according to historical records. Life signs? Maya asked. Faint but present. Approximately 20 individuals. They're in cryostasis, likely emergency protocols after sustaining damage. Maya studied the tactical display. Any sign of what attacked them? Radiation signature suggests Krek's weapons. Adeimi replied grimly. The Kreks were not part of the Coalition. They were a predatory species known for raiding vulnerable worlds and taking slaves. The Coalition officially condemned them, but rarely took decisive action against their depredations, particularly in frontier regions. Captain, Communications Officer Dias interrupted. We're receiving a distress beacon from the surface. It's on a Lyrisi emergency frequency. The bridge fell silent. This was unprecedented. In 50 years of shadow operations, humanity had maintained strict non-contact protocols with Coalition species. They observed, they studied, but they never revealed themselves. Maya paced the bridge, weighing her options. Her orders were explicit: maintain stealth, gather intelligence, avoid detection at all costs. But 20 lives hung in the balance. Put the surface transmission on screen, she ordered. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a Lyrisi female with iridescent scales and large, expressive eyes. Her image was distorted by static as she spoke in the Coalition's common language. This is Science Director Nara of the Lyrisi Expeditionary Corps. Our colony has been attacked by Krek's raiders. They've taken most of our people. The diplomatic vessel carrying our distress call was damaged attempting to escape. If anyone receives this message, please help us. The Coalition abandoned this sector last cycle. We have children here. The transmission cut off abruptly. Maya turned to her executive officer, Commander Takahashi. Your assessment, XO. Takahashi frowned. Helping means revealing ourselves. 50 years of secrecy would be compromised. And if we do nothing, the Lyrisi die, or worse, become Krek's slaves. Maya studied the damaged Lyrisi vessel on the view screen. Her training told her to maintain stealth. Her orders were explicit, but something deeper, the core of what made her human, pushed against those constraints. Contact Phoenix Command, she finally said. Request emergency authorization for first contact protocol. While they awaited a response, Maya ordered detailed scans of the system. The results confirmed their worst fears. A Krek's raiding ship was still in orbit around the far side of the planet. It was larger than the Shadowhawk and heavily armed, but technologically inferior to the human vessel. 4 hours later, the quantum communicator chimed. Admiral Santos, director of Phoenix Command, appeared on screen. His expression was grave. Captain Chen, I've reviewed your situation with the Council. This puts us at a crossroads we always knew would come. He paused. Your request for first contact is approved with conditions. You may render assistance, but minimize technological exposure. The Lyrissi must not learn the full extent of our capabilities or the location of human space. Maya nodded. Understood, Admiral. One more thing, Captain. Make sure they remember who saved them when everyone else abandoned them. It's time the galaxy learned humans aren't confined to Sol anymore. The transmission ended, and Maya turned to her crew. Battle stations. Prepare rescue teams and medical personnel. We're going in. The Shadowhawk decloaked within firing range of the Krex vessel, which had no warning until human weapons sliced through its propulsion systems and weapons arrays. The Krex, accustomed to being predators, found themselves helpless prey as Maya's tactical team disabled their ship with surgical precision. Meanwhile, landing teams descended to the surface, where they found the remaining Lyrissi hiding in underground shelters. The aliens were initially terrified. Humans were known to them only as dangerous primitives confined to their home system. Science Director Nera approached Maya cautiously. You're human? But how? The quarantine is still in place, Maya replied with a slight smile. Officially. Over the next days, human medical teams treated the injured Lyrissi, while engineers repaired their diplomatic vessel. Teams from the Shadowhawk boarded the disabled Krex ship, freeing captive Lyrissi and taking control of the vessel. As the rescue operation concluded, Maya invited Director Nera to the Shadowhawk's conference room. The Lyrissi scientists studied the human vessel with unconcealed amazement. Your technology. It's far beyond what the Coalition believes humans possess. The Coalition hasn't seen humans in 50 years, Maya replied. We've been busy. Where did you come from? How did you pass the quarantine barriers? Maya smiled. Those are questions I can't answer. But I can tell you this. Humanity is no longer confined to Sol. We have established ourselves among the stars, peacefully and without the Coalition's knowledge or permission. Nera's scales shifted color in what Maya recognized as an expression of awe. The Council feared what humanity might become if allowed to expand. I begin to understand their fear. The question is, Maya said, leaning forward, what will you tell them when you return? The Lyrissi contemplated this. The truth. That humans saved us when our own Coalition abandoned us. That you treated us with compassion and respect. That perhaps the quarantine was the greatest mistake in Coalition history. And the location of this encounter. I am a scientist, Captain Chen. My records will show we encountered you near the Rigel system, quite far from here. A small repayment for our lives. As the repaired Lyrissi vessel prepared to depart, Maya received new orders from Phoenix Command. The Shadowhawk would escort the Lyrissi ship to the edge of Coalition space, ensuring their safe return. This changes everything, Commander Takahashi noted as they watched the Lyrissi ship enter FTL. Once they report this encounter, the Coalition will know we've broken quarantine. Let them know, Maya replied. It's time for Phase 3. Throughout human space, similar scenes unfolded. The Council had authorized limited contact operations across the frontier. Human ships appeared from nowhere to defend vulnerable colonies from Krex raiders. Settlements suffering from disease or famine received anonymous deliveries of advanced medical supplies and food. Merchant vessels lost in deep space were mysteriously guided back to safe routes. Each encounter was carefully managed to reveal humanity's presence while concealing their true extent. The message was clear. Humans had escaped their cage, and rather than becoming the monsters the Coalition feared, they had become guardians of those the Coalition neglected. Coalition intelligence agencies scrambled to track these mysterious human appearances, but the Phantom Drive technology left them chasing shadows. Humans appeared and disappeared at will, their ships immune to conventional detection. Meanwhile, on the human colony world of Ascension, representatives from all 27 human worlds gathered to prepare for the inevitable confrontation with the Coalition. 50 years of isolation had forged a unified human identity stronger than any in Earth's history. They had become a single people with a shared purpose, to claim their rightful place among the stars, not as supplicants, but as equals. Admiral Santos addressed the assembled leaders. The first phase of contact has begun. The coalition now knows we are free, but they do not know our strength or our reach. They will soon attempt to reassert the quarantine by force. When they do, we will be ready. A holographic display activated, showing the culmination of 50 years of human military development. The Nemesis-class warships. Unlike the stealth vessels that had performed the rescue operations, these were designed for direct confrontation. 6 of these enormous vessels had been constructed in secret, each more powerful than anything in the known coalition fleet. We do not seek war, Santos continued, but neither will we accept return to our cage. The time has come to negotiate from a position of strength. The human leaders unanimously approved the Ascension Protocol, a multi-stage plan to force the coalition to recognize humanity as equals. The silent revolution was about to become very loud indeed. The reckoning. The emergency session of the Galactic Coalition Council was chaotic. Representatives from hundreds of worlds shouted over one another as reports of human activity outside the Sol quarantine zone flooded in from across the galaxy. High Elder Zorix, one of the few remaining members who had participated in the original quarantine decision 50 years earlier, struggled to maintain order. Silence, he finally roared, his voice amplified throughout the Grand Hall. This crisis requires clear thinking, not panic. Elder Thalos of the Myriad Collective shuffled forward, his ancient body supported by a hovering platform. The reports are verified. Human vessels have been encountered in 17 distinct sectors, including deep within coalition space. They have engaged Krex raiders, provided aid to colonies, and even established diplomatic relations with frontier worlds. The quarantine has failed utterly. It hasn't failed, Elder Morvath insisted, his crystalline form pulsing with agitation. The Sentinel network reports no breaches. No human ship has passed the quarantine barrier. Science Director Lyra, a Larissi who had recently been promoted to the council, stepped into the center of the chamber. With respect, elders, the evidence suggests humans have developed technology that renders our Sentinel network obsolete. They are not passing through the barrier. They are bypassing it entirely. Impossible, Morvath exclaimed. Our scientists confirmed no such technology could exist. Our scientists were wrong, Lyra replied simply. She activated a holographic display showing footage from the rescue of the Larissi expedition. This is the human vessel that saved my people. Its propulsion technology, weapon systems, and stealth capabilities exceed our current understanding. They appear and disappear at will, without triggering any of our detection networks. Alarmed murmurs spread through the chamber. Elder Azari's feathered crest flattened in distress. If humans can penetrate our space undetected, what prevents them from striking at our core worlds? We must reinforce the quarantine immediately. With what? Asked Lyra. If our current technology cannot detect them, more of the same will not help. High Elder Zorix raised his limbs for silence. We have received a transmission. From Earth. The chamber fell silent as the main holographic display activated. Admiral Helena Santos appeared, her silver hair and lined face testifying to the decades that had passed since the quarantine began. She wore a formal black uniform with no insignia except a small phoenix emblem. Greetings, Coalition Council. I am Admiral Helena Santos, representing the United Worlds of Humanity. 50 years ago, your predecessors declared us too dangerous to join galactic society and imprisoned us within our home system. Today, I inform you that humanity has rendered that judgment obsolete. The display shifted to show a map of the galaxy with hundreds of points of light outside the Sol system. These are human worlds, colonies, and outposts established over the past 5 decades. We have expanded peacefully, harming no one while developing in isolation. The quarantine you imposed did not contain us. It merely ensured we developed without your influence or constraints. The council chamber erupted in shocked exclamations as the implications became clear. Humanity hadn't just escaped, they had thrived. Santos continued, "We have observed the coalition for decades. We have witnessed your strengths and your failings. We have seen how you abandon frontier worlds to predatory species like the Cracks. We have seen how your bureaucracy stifles innovation and progress. We have seen how the elder races maintain their dominance by restricting technological development among younger species." Her expression hardened. "The time for humanity's isolation has ended. We do not seek conflict, but neither will we return to our cage. I am authorized to negotiate new terms for humanity's relationship with the galactic community." High Elder Zorix leaned forward. "And if we refuse these negotiations, if we enforce the quarantine as originally decreed?" Santos smiled thinly. "Then observe." The transmission switched to a live feed from the Sol system. The Sentinel platforms that had maintained the quarantine for 50 years were suddenly surrounded by sleek, dark vessels that appeared from nowhere. In a coordinated attack lasting less than 60 seconds, every platform was disabled without being destroyed. "That was a demonstration," Santos said as the feed returned to her. "Had we wished destruction rather than dialogue, those platforms would be debris. My task force will hold position while the Council deliberates. You have 24 hours to decide whether to negotiate or continue a failed policy. Choose wisely." The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. Elder Thelos was the first to speak. "We have no choice but to negotiate. The quarantine is broken beyond repair." "This is precisely why we quarantine them," Morvath countered. "They've grown too powerful, too quickly. We must rally the Coalition fleet and reestablish control." Science Director Lyra shook her head. "The technology gap is too great. Did you not observe how their ships appeared and disappeared? Our fleets would be fighting shadows." High Elder Zorix sank back into his ceremonial seat, suddenly looking every year of his considerable age. "We made a fundamental error 50 years ago," he said quietly. "We judged humanity by our standards, expecting them to accept limitations as natural law. Instead, we created a species with all the ingenuity of humanity, but none of the restraint membership might have instilled." After 12 hours of heated debate, the Council voted narrowly to open negotiations. A diplomatic vessel was dispatched to the Sol system under a flag of truce. Admiral Santos met the Coalition delegation aboard the UWA's Phoenix, the flagship of the human fleet. The massive vessel dwarfed the Coalition ship, its design unlike anything the delegates had seen before. Elder Izari led the Coalition team, her feathers carefully groomed to project dignity despite the circumstances. "Admiral Santos, the Council has authorized me to discuss terms for lifting the quarantine and establishing diplomatic relations." Santos gestured toward a conference room. "Then let us begin, Elder Izari. But understand this, we are not petitioning for membership as we did 50 years ago. We are negotiating as equals." Over the next 3 days, the framework for a new relationship was established. The quarantine would be formally lifted. Humanity would be recognized as an independent power, neither subject to Coalition authority, nor benefiting from Coalition protection. Human worlds would remain sovereign territory, with Coalition species permitted to visit or trade only with explicit permission. In return, humanity would share some of its technological advancements, particularly medical breakthroughs and defensive systems to combat the Krek's threat. They would also commit to peaceful expansion and non-interference in Coalition politics. As the negotiations concluded, Elder Azari asked the question that had troubled the Council most. "Admiral, your people have demonstrated the capacity to strike at any Coalition world without warning. What assurance do we have that humanity will honor these agreements?" Santos smiled. "The same assurance you had 50 years ago, Elder. Human nature. You feared our potential for aggression, but failed to recognize our capacity for cooperation. We don't seek dominance. We seek a future where all species can thrive without artificial limitations." She gestured to the viewport, where Earth was visible in the distance. "Look at my world, Elder." Despite being sentenced to isolation, we did not turn inward with resentment. We reached outward with hope. That is who we are. 3 months later, human representatives returned to the Grand Hall of the Coalition. Unlike 50 years before, they did not stand as supplicants before the Council. They entered as equals, with Admiral Santos taking a seat specifically designed for human physiology, the first non-coalition species to be so honored. High Elder Zorix formally rescinded the Quarantine Declaration and acknowledged the United Worlds of Humanity as a sovereign galactic power. "Today marks a new chapter in galactic history," he announced. "Let it be remembered that even the oldest among us can learn from our mistakes." As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Santos approached Science Director Lyra. "Your reports of our rescue operation were instrumental in changing the Council's perspective. Thank you." Lyra's scales shimmered with emotion. "No, Admiral. Thank you for showing us that our fears were misplaced. The galaxy focused on humanity's potential for destruction, while overlooking your capacity for compassion. A common failing among all species," Santos replied. "We fear what might be rather than appreciating what is." She gazed around the ancient chamber. "The Coalition has maintained stability for millennia by constraining change. Humanity thrives on change, on challenge. Perhaps together, we can find a balance between stability and progress." As word spread throughout the galaxy of humanity's emergence as a major power, reactions varied widely. Some worlds sought immediate alliance with these newcomers whose technology had leapfrogged centuries of Coalition development. Others reinforced their defenses, still fearful of what humans might become. But on the frontier worlds, where Coalition protection had always been theoretical rather than practical, humanity's appearance was greeted with hope. Human vessels continued their campaign against the Kreks, liberating enslaved populations and establishing protective patrols around vulnerable colonies. 50 years of isolation had forged humanity into something new, not the aggressive conquerors the Coalition had feared, but neither the compliant members they might have preferred. They had become a counterbalance to the Coalition's stagnant consensus, a catalyst for change in a society that had resisted it for millennia. On the human colony world of Defiance, now revealed as humanity's first extrasolar settlement, Admiral Santos stood before the assembled representatives of 32 human worlds. Behind her, a monument was unveiled, a simple stone obelisk inscribed with the Coalition's original Quarantine Declaration. "Let this stand as a reminder," she told the crowd, "not of past injustice, but of the human spirit that refused to be confined. They meant to cage us, but instead they freed us from constraints we might have accepted. They feared what we might become, and in doing so, they helped us become something greater than we imagined." She gazed up at the stars visible through the transparent dome. "The galaxy feared us. Now they will come to respect us, not because we are more powerful, but because we chose to use that power to protect rather than dominate. That is humanity's true strength, and it cannot be quarantined." The phoenix had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same.